Hey everyone, welcome back to Sweet Yellow House, and I have 10 projects for you today. They are going to be quick ones, and this is so we could get our stash down. Project 1 is a metal piece, a scroll, decorative piece that I found at the Goodwill, and I started out by taking that out back and spraying it with the Rust-Oleum paint primer, and this is to protect the metal underneath. I'm going to grab the patina paint from Dixie Belle in the iron, and I'm going to do a couple of coats of that on here. I let it dry between each coat. This paint dries really fast, so you don't really have to wait too long, although you could grab your heat gun and hurry that along if you want. I'm using a smaller brush just so that I can get in between all of those little scrolls and in between there. I went ahead and let that second coat dry. And with the third coat, this is where I'm going to add the patina spray. With this treatment, you have to add the spray while the paint is still wet. So I recommend that you put the paint in another cup, because if you contaminate it with the spray in your original container, it will start to turn that paint and gloop it all up, and you don't want that to happen. So here I'm just painting and spraying in that extra cup, and then I let it dry, and this is a result. You can see the rust on there. I really like the way that this came out. It looks like it's an old piece, and if you want, you can actually spray a protective coat over this. I chose not to do that. I don't think I'm going to be putting it outside, but if I do decide to do that, then I will put a matte coat over that. So project 2, I believe I got at the Goodwill as well, and this is a decorative finial type thing, and I'm going to start out with just cleaning that off. I grabbed my Hey Sailor from DIY Paint, and I am going to do a couple of coats for some full coverage. I add a little bit of water to this only because DIY paint is a little bit too thick for me, and the great thing about the paint is that you can put some water on it or in it and stir it up, and it's not going to mess with the integrity of the color. I really love the darkness of this blue. It just kind of screams to me like a really rich, expensive blue type color. And I prefer blues like this compared to maybe baby blue type color. So I'm going to use my heat gun just to kind of dry those coats in between. Sometimes if you try to put a second coat on, it will take off the first coat. So you really want to let that dry before you add in the second coat. So now that I've dried it with my heat gun, I am ready to put on my second coat, making sure that I got everything covered, because again, I want to have full coverage here. Normally, I let my projects, the paint dry between each coat by itself, but like I said, I wanted these projects to be quick. So after I have that second coat dry, I'm grabbing my DIY Big Top, and I'm going to do a protective coat over the whole thing. I will dry the Big Top with my heat gun as well, just so that I can go ahead and move on to my next step. Once I have that dried, I'm going to grab my DIY dark wax and I'm going to scoop some out onto this paper here. That way I don't contaminate my jar. And using a smaller soft brush, I'm going to work that dark wax in between, like in all of those little crevices there. And I'm going to do a section at a time, wiping back when I'm done with each section so that I do not have it sit on there for too long and, you know, get stuck and I can't move it around. So I'm just applying and wiping off, applying and wiping off. It gives me a little bit of freedom since I have that clear coat over, over it before I put the wax on, so it doesn't make it so hard to remove it. Once I have that where I want it, I'm going to grab my gilding wax in Empire Gold, and just using my finger, I'm going to start to apply that on all the detail on this finial. I really like how that blue sets off that gold. It just looks so pretty together. I'm wiping back that gold with the rag that I wiped off the dark wax with, just to kind of bring that gold back. So that's how that turned out. You can use this as a shelf sitter, a bookend, or just something to kind of decorate a vignette with. Project 3, I've had these little wall plaques for quite some time. I really just could not decide on what color I wanted to paint these, so I decided to go out of my comfort zone and paint them in French millinery, I think it is. And this is also from DIY Paint. I'm going to stir that up, and I believe that I add a little bit of water, yes, to this as well, just to kind of thin that out just a bit. To me, it just helps that paint to go on a little bit smoother. So once I have that all stirred in, just grab my brush. I grab a smaller brush just so I can get in between those little grates and make sure that everything's covered. I do a couple of coats on each of these, front and back. I want to make sure that I have full coverage. I also couldn't decide which was the top and which was the bottom. They seem like you could hang these either way. This color is a really pretty, like purpley gray color, and it just is a really soft. It could even like fall into maybe a pink somehow, like a really dusty pink in some way. So it's just a really nice, beautiful color. I went ahead and did the backs, like I said earlier on these. I just wanted to make sure that these are finished all the way around, because I will be putting these up for sale on my website. And if you haven't gone and checked out my website, all of the projects that I make that I don't decide to keep, I do put up there for sale. So go check it out. So this is how full coverage looks on those. And I grabbed the clear Jolie finishing wax, and I'm gonna do a coat of this on both of them, front and back as well. I'm really doing this more to kind of like give it a deeper color and for some protection as well. Once I have that all done, I'm going to grab the white wax in the DIY line as well and put some of that out, and I'm going to use a wax brush and just go over these wall hangings. And what I'm doing here is I'm not actually swiping that wax everywhere. I'm really pouncing it on the wall decor, just because I really want it to get in all of those nooks and crannies and have that wax settle down in there. And with a soft cloth, I am wiping that white wax back. I actually left these for a couple of days because I wanted to put something else on them, but they were already so pretty as they were, so I kind of went back and forth just trying to decide if I should do more with them. So in the end, I did decide that I was going to highlight some of that with some of the gilding wax in the Empire Gold. Many of you know that this is my favorite wax. I don't know what it is, like I said, about it. It's just the texture is really nice. It's nice and soft. The color of it, it just shines really, really pretty. But it's a soft shine. It's not like a really gaudy, awful, bronzy shine. And that's how those turned out. Really pretty. I bought these to actually keep myself, but because I decided to paint them with the color that I did, it really kind of doesn't go with anything in my home, so I just decided that I would sell them. Gorgeous. They are gorgeous. They are definitely, to me, remind me of a French country type decoration. So project 4 is, I think it's like a magazine rack type thing, or a magazine basket or bucket or something. So the first thing I'm going to do is remove this molding around the edge with just a screwdriver. This thing's pretty old, and so that comes off fairly easy. So what I want to do is also remove this plate, which is held on by little small nails. And I'm going to remove everything, all the nails as well, out of there. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. And this actually came off really easy. It just took a minute, just a minute or two to get all of it done. So once I have that all removed, I'm going to grab my sander and just sand down any of kind of like the rough edges there that the nails left and everything else. So after I'm done sanding, I take a wipe and I'm going to wipe everything down. I grabbed this Salvation solution in DIY. I will say I don't have very much good luck with this. I know that a lot of people swear by it, but for some reason it just does not seem to want to block anything for me. So while I'm putting this on, you can actually see the yellow from that wood behind it just coming through. It's just the tannins from that or whatever. It's just, you know, as I'm actually painting, it's just still coming through. So I did 3 coats and still all the yellow there, so I just decided to go with it, and I grabbed cake batter, this really beautiful yellow. It's my favorite color yellow, and I'm going to do a couple of coats on both sides, on each side of this. I think this color yellow just goes really good with the color of that wood or bamboo that's around it, and it just makes it all look so buttery and yummy. And this, like I said, this color yellow is my favorite. I love it. It's just the perfect color yellow. So as I'm painting each layer, I am drying between those coats. And once I have that all dried and settled, I'm going to grab Big Top again, and I'm going to do a coat on each side and just locking in that cake batter paint. The reason that I decided to do that was just because I wanted to use some transfers from the Lover of Flowers, which is part of the spring release of this year, and I'm just going through and deciding what I want to use to transfer on this. I decided that I was going to do different flowers on each side. I thought that I could have put the same flowers because I do have these, you know, 2 of these booklets, but I just thought it would be better and more versatile to be able to, you know, put it either way. I do, you know, like I put the red flowers, the apple blossoms on the other side, and because those are more and have red in them, then, you know, you could use this at Christmas time as well and put, you know, other things in them, not just spring items. So I just grabbed the carrier sheet and burnished that down. Once I got all of that down, I'm going to grab the DIY dark wax and I'm going to just go over the ends of that. I'm not going over any of the yellow part with the inlays or the transfers on them. I'm just gonna kind of freshen up this wood, give it some luster, give it some moisture and stuff, and kind of, you know, like I said, just freshen that wood part up. So I'm doing the outside and the inside, and I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes, and then I'm going to grab a soft cloth and buff that out. If you're finding that your wax is coming off and it's not kind of buffing, or it's taking too long to buff out and get that shine, you probably need to let it sit for a little bit so that it can kind of cure somewhat before you start buffing that off. So now I'm going to lock in those transfers with the Jolie finishing wax in clear, just so that I can get all of that sealed up and protected. So I'm doing the paint, the inlays, and around the border there. And I just go back after I let that sit for a few minutes and wipe that back. The pictures are different. I had to take these inside. It's been like 105, 107. I think tomorrow is going to be like 109. And normally I take my pictures outside in my studio outside where I have my stuff set up, and I just could not talk myself into going out there. So that's why all the pictures, I took them inside. This came out really great, and I always see these kind of little buckets and stuff at the Goodwill and thrift stores and stuff. So Project 5 was, or is, this kind of crock with the top on it. Let's see, there's nothing to this. This is a quick, I think the quickest flip I've ever done. So I'm just going to wipe it down with alcohol. I usually do this when I'm going to do a transfer. It just helps it stick better. Again, I'm going to grab that pad of Lovers of Flowers. I picked this one out, and I'm just going to transfer that on to the crock. I think that the color of the crock, along with these beautiful yellow flowers and the green leaves, is just so pretty. You can use this in your kitchen, or just sitting on a shelf, or even, you know, if you have a really beautifully decorated bathroom to put, you know, bath salts in or anything like that. It's just beautiful. So such a simple project, but the transfers just really gave it a completely different look. I haven't decided if I'm going to put this on my website or not. It's waiting for a tag to see if I'm going to put one on there or not. Project 6 is this little love heart tray. It looks like it's real silver, but it's pretty tarnished, so I'm gonna start off with just wiping it back, and I'm gonna grab the French millinery again and do some coats on this front and back. This color, I'm not really, like I said, like a purple pink type of girl, but this color is just really so pretty. It's not in your face purple or, you know, a drabby gray. It just has enough color and, you know, but enough subtlety in it. So between each coat, I'm going to use my heat gun and dry that. I thought about putting this on like a pedestal, but I didn't want to do that. I just felt like this would make such a cute little tray, you know, to put jewelry on, or to put on your bathroom counter, to put soaps in, or anything like that. So I did, like I said, a couple of coats of this just to make sure that I had full coverage on it, and to give it some kind of some sturdiness to it, so it didn't chip off very easy. Because if you're going to be throwing your earrings or throwing some rings or jewelry in it, I didn't want it to chip that paint fairly easy. I will say I'm always really surprised on how well the DIY paint covers slick surfaces like the silver pieces and stuff. So it just covers really well. So I'm going to grab the big top again, and I'm going to do some coats on this. And again, this is for protection, so that the paint doesn't start to come off. Let's say if you have it in the bathroom and it gets wet. So I'm going to make sure that I have some really good coats on this so that it's very protected. Once I have that all dry and ready to go, I am grabbing DIY white wax, and again I'm putting some out, and I'm going to use a wax brush to apply that. And again, I'm not using swiping motions here. I'm really kind of stippling that into all of that decoration that's at the top of that tray and at the bottom. And with the soft cloth, I'm just wiping back. If you put a first coat on and you, like I said, you find that it's not really sticking because you're wiping off too fast, you can actually reapply the coat again and it will stick a little better, so you get more of that white coming through. And again, I grab my favorite wax, gilding wax, gold wax, in Empire Gold, and I'm just using my finger to apply that to the flowers on the top and on the bottom. Project 7 is this picture frame that is real wood. I've had this for some time. I wasn't really sure if I wanted to paint it. I really like the frame in its natural state, so I got it at the Goodwill, and it holds an 8x10 photo in there. So the first thing I'm going to start out doing, because this cream color around the inner part of the frame is fabric, it's like a cotton fabric, so I'm just going to cover that with some painter's tape, making sure that I'm pressing that down well. I grabbed my Dark and Decrepit liquid patina from DIY, and I'm going to do a couple of coats around the frame. I'm using a small brush because this has a little bit of detail, and just to kind of get into all of those little crevices there. Liquid patina also dries really quick. You can use your heat gun like you see me here doing, just to kind of hurry that along, and so this doesn't take any time at all. You know, even if you let it sit and dry on its own, it doesn't take very long. So I do apply a second coat to that, and after that I will use my heat gun again to dry that. I want to make sure that I pick that up and go around those bottom edges, and I get the corners where a lot of those nicks were. That's the reason why I decided to use the Dark and Decrepit, was because this had some damage to it. It had some scratches and nicks and stuff that I wanted to cover up. So once that was all dry, I grabbed the dark wax again, and I'm going to use that to go around the frame, and I'm just buffing that in really well. I'm just gonna make sure that that wax is getting into every little crevice, every little nook and cranny of there, and it's covering up all of that liquid patina. And you can see, like, if you have any shiny spots on there, it's gonna, then you need to go back and apply the wax. And again, I let this sit for a little while, for 5 minutes or so, and then I just went back with a soft cloth and buffed it out. And when you let it sit, it's not going to take very long to buff that to a little bit of a shine. So I removed that tape, and now I am applying it so that I can get the very inner part of the frame, which is also wood. I want to make sure that I cover that so it matches the outer part. And I apply 2 coats of the liquid patina to this, and then once again I will follow that up with the dark wax and let that sit for a little bit, and then I will buff that out as well. I'm sorry if you could hear like the humming in the background. It's my air conditioner, because it is 105 today, I think. So once that's all dry, I remove that tape and I'm going to put that aside and grab this decoupage paper, which I want to say I got from Jamie Ray Vintage. With this decoupage part, I'm not being very careful. I really want this to look like an old painting, so I didn't do a very good job. I was kind of like interacting with my kids and stuff while I was doing this. My hand was sitting on it and that liquid patina was drying, so when I pulled my hand off, it left like some white marks and stuff. So, but I just decided to go with it, and so I was just gonna go ahead and use it. I just felt like it didn't take anything away from it. It looked like an old painting, so I just used my liquid patina and I'm going to decoupage that down, applying that to the canvas, which is an 8x10 canvas that I got at Michael's, I think. And then once I have that applied down at the bottom, I'm going to push that down and then apply it to the top. This is what happens when I try to craft with the door open and the dogs are running in and out and the kids are going crazy and everybody wants something. I forget what I'm doing. So I probably should have cut that edge off, but I didn't even do that. I just kind of folded it back. So I let that liquid patina dry, and then I grabbed my Mod Podge in the gloss, and I'm going to go over this so that it actually does look like a painting. So using a small brush, I just kind of make different strokes for the area of paint, like just so that it looks like actual brush strokes from a painting. Yeah, I was not careful with this at all. I probably should have redid it with a different picture, but I didn't think that it was more into what I was trying to do instead of, you know, just kind of deserting it there. So I grabbed my IOD in the vintage textures, and I'm going to use the crackle type stamp, that one. If I had to go back and do it, I would probably use the stamp with the smaller cracks in it. I just think that it would look a little better. So I turned around and I did that, and I used the gray, I think it's the gray stone ink on there, because I just didn't want them like blaring cracks in it. I just wanted you to barely be able to see them. So I'm not being very careful with this either. I probably should have held that down a little bit better, but it doesn't take away from it at all. I know after I let that ink dry, I did grab a baby wipe and kind of even soften it a little bit more. So I like the way that this came out. I don't have a problem with that at all. I definitely am going to keep this and hang this on my wall. I think that dark and decrepit gave this frame a new life. It just looks so rich and beautiful, the color of it. Project 8 is like a tin planter. So it had some sticky stuff on it, I think from a label or something. So I just got some Goo Gone and took that off, and then proceeded to wipe everything down. It was pretty dusty and stuff. So I just wiped it all down before I started. I'm going to use crockery from DIY Cottage Colors, and I really like this. I used to have a ceramic pot that was in this shape, but it was definitely ceramic, not tin, and that's kind of what my inspiration was, because my ceramic pot didn't make it in the move, so I just thought that I would replace it with this. I'm so sorry, you could hear my dogs. Oh. Okay, so with this I ended up doing 3.5 coats, so I just wanted to make sure that I had full coverage on this, and I dried between coats with my heat gun again because I wanted to make these really fast projects. So I just go through and I just keep painting until I don't see any of that dark color come through there. I really love this color. I would have to say that it's not a stark white, and it's not, you know, a really yellowy creamy color. It's a really nice color. I want to say beige, but that's really not, that doesn't give it justice. Like I said, 3 coats, and on the 4th coat I just did some touch-ups. So once I got that all dried, I grabbed the DIY dark wax and also the Jolie clear wax, and I'm going to mix these together. This is just to kind of tint that clear wax. I didn't want a full dark wax exposure to this. I didn't want it to look so grungy, but I did want it to look like it had some patina with it. So I'm just going over that quick wipe with the wax brush, and then going back and wiping that with a soft cloth. I think this came out so pretty. It just really changed the whole look of that pot just by changing the color. It's kind of amazing. Project 9 is also going to be a really quick flip. So I got this little picture at the Goodwill, and I'm gonna just start off again by cleaning it all up. It's a little bit dusty, so then I'm gonna grab my alcohol and wipe the area where I plan on putting inlay, so I mean a transfer. So I could grab my traditional pots, an oldie but a goodie, and I'm going to pick out what I'm going to put on there. I wanted to do a white transfer there, and so I decided on one with the little hound on it or something, and that's what I'm going to put on there. I'm just cutting some slits into there, so that way it kind of wraps around that a little bit easier, and I don't have to fight it so hard to get it to lay down. So burnishing it down with that carrier sheet, and that's pretty easy for that, but I think it actually makes this little picture look so much nicer. You could actually use this if you wanted to. The inside of that is finished out, and or you can just use it for decoration. Okay, so this is our last and final project, project 10. You've seen me use these before in a couple of projects a couple of weeks ago, and I had a third one. It came in a set of 3, so I'm going to use this last one up, grabbing cottage color anvil. It's like a black color. I'm going to do a base coat to cover all of this, and I want to make sure that I have full coverage with this paint. And again, I'm drying between coats with my heat gun because I want to make sure that I'm doing these projects fast. So here's the second coat. The first coat kind of went on streaky, but the second coat definitely gives you a lot more coverage with this paint. Making sure that I get around the edges and covering every bit of that so that it will keep from doing any kind of damage to it, because I am going to put the Dixie Belle patina paint in copper on this. So I'm making sure that all of that is dry before I add the patina paint. And this, you see how awful this looks? It's because I was not a good girl and I got some of that patina spray in there and it just started clumping up together. So don't do what I did. Just make sure, if you are definitely going to be having that patina spray around, that you're going to put it in a separate little cup. And you can also see here that the copper is already like a dark color, like it already has like a really patina to it. And I'm using the heat gun to dry that, even though this paint does dry really fast. And you'll be able to see the difference. So I ended up opening up a new container of the copper, and you can just see, look at the difference in that, because that's new. It doesn't have any of that patina spray in there, and you can just see kind of how lustrous that is compared to the first. So I did 2 coats, and then on my third coat is where I'm going to add the spray. And you can see I am just kind of painting and then adding the spray to that. This is a really good project for if you're doing vignettes, to do backgrounds. You know, if you wanted to add more color to something, you can place this behind in a plate holder or something like that, just to kind of give you some more color for that. I hope you like my projects today. Thank you for watching and spending your time with me. Don't forget to go over to my website, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.